Early life and business. In the ancient city of Mecca, where golden sands met bustling marketplaces and the sacred Kaaba stood as the spiritual heart of Arabia, a remarkable woman was born. Her name was Khadijah bint Khuwaylid, and she entered this world around the year 554 of the Common Era, into a time when the desert winds carried both the songs of caravans and the whispers of changing times. The Quraysh tribe, into which Khadijah was born, stood as one of the most respected and influential families in all of Mecca. They were the keepers of traditions, the facilitators of trade, and the guardians of the city's prosperity. Her father, Khuwaylid ibn Asad, was a merchant of great renown, a man whose caravans stretched across the vast Arabian desert like threads connecting distant worlds. From the moment she could understand words, young Khadijah heard stories of far-off lands, of the green valleys of Yemen where frankincense grew, of the ancient cities of Syria where silk and spices exchanged hands, of the endless possibilities that lay beyond the horizon. Growing up in her father's house, Khadijah observed everything. She watched as merchants negotiated in the courtyard, their voices rising and falling like music. She learned to distinguish quality fabrics with just a touch, to understand the true value of goods beyond their surface appearance. While other girls her age focused solely on domestic arts, Khadijah absorbed the language of commerce, the delicate dance of trade, the importance of reputation and trust in a world where a person's word was their bond. Her childhood was one of privilege, yes, but also of education and purpose. The Quraysh valued intelligence and capability, and Khadijah's family recognized in her a sharp mind and an even sharper sense of judgment. She learned to read the weather in the sky, to understand the seasons of trade, to know when to send caravans north and when to send them south. These were not merely practical skills, they were the building blocks of wisdom. When her father passed away, leaving behind his trading empire, many expected the business to be divided among male relatives or sold off entirely. But Khadijah had other plans. She had spent years learning every aspect of her father's trade, understanding not just the mechanics of commerce but the relationships, the routes, the trusted partners in distant cities. She knew that she could not only maintain what her father had built, she could expand it. And expand it she did. Khadijah took control of her inheritance with a confidence that surprised many and impressed even more. She hired the most capable agents, men of integrity who would represent her interests across the desert routes. She maintained her father's reputation for fairness and honesty, but she added her own innovations, her own instincts for which goods would find the best markets and when to take calculated risks. Her caravans became a familiar sight on the roads to Syria, those long lines of camels carrying precious cargo across landscapes that shifted from rocky desert to fertile plains. The journey to Syria was arduous, taking weeks under the burning sun and cool desert nights. But Khadijah chose her caravan leaders carefully, men who knew every watering hole, every safe passage, every Bedouin tribe along the way. Her goods arrived in Damascus and other Syrian cities in perfect condition, and they sold for excellent prices. To the south, her caravans traveled to Yemen, that legendary land of plenty where aromatic resins and precious goods originated. Yemen, with its terraced mountains and ancient kingdoms, provided frankincense, myrrh, and other luxuries that the world desired. Khadijah's business acumen told her exactly which goods would command the highest prices in Mecca's markets, and her caravans returned laden with treasures that made her enterprise flourish. But Khadijah's success was not built on shrewd business practices alone. In a world where a merchant's reputation was everything, where trust could make or break a fortune, Khadijah stood out like a beacon. She was scrupulously honest in all her dealings. She paid fair wages to those who worked for her. She honored her contracts even when it might have been profitable to break them. She treated her trading partners with respect and dignity, whether they were wealthy merchants or humble craftsmen. This integrity, this unwavering commitment to ethical conduct, earned her a title that would follow her throughout her life, Al-Tahira, which means the pure one. It was not a title she claimed for herself, but one that others bestowed upon her, recognition of her character that spread throughout Mecca and beyond. In the marketplaces, people would say, "Deal with Khadijah, for she is Al-Tahira." In distant cities, merchants knew that a contract with Khadijah was as solid as stone. Her business grew and prospered, and with success came proposals of marriage. For in that society, a wealthy, beautiful, and intelligent woman was considered a prize beyond measure. Khadijah had married young, as was the custom of her time, but her first husband passed away, leaving her a widow. She married again, and again she found herself widowed, left alone but for her children and her thriving business. Now, many suitors came calling. Wealthy merchants sought her hand, hoping to merge their fortunes with hers. Noblemen of the Quraysh tribe proposed marriage, drawn by her status and success. Some saw in her primarily a profitable business opportunity. Others were genuinely attracted to her intelligence and character. But Khadijah, comfortable in her independence and secure in her abilities, rejected them all. She had tasted independence, you see, and found it sweet. She had proven to herself and to the world that she needed no man to manage her affairs or make her decisions. She had children to care for, a business to run, and a reputation to maintain. Marriage, she decided, would only complicate her life unless it brought something truly valuable, not just wealth or status, but genuine partnership, mutual respect, and shared values. And so, Khadijah continued her work, managing her trading empire with skill and grace. She rose early each morning to oversee her household and her business. She met with her agents, discussing routes and opportunities. She examined goods with a practiced eye, determining their quality and potential value. She negotiated contracts, always fair but always shrewd. She resolved disputes with wisdom that often left both parties satisfied. Her home became a place of both commerce and culture. Scholars and poets, merchants and travelers, all found welcome in her majlis, her reception hall. She listened to their stories of distant lands, gathering information that informed her business decisions. She heard news of political changes, of droughts and harvests, of wars and peace treaties, all information that a successful merchant needed to know. The women of Mecca looked up to her as an example of what was possible. The men respected her business acumen and honored her integrity. Children heard stories of Al-Tahira, the successful merchant who proved that character and intelligence were the true measures of worth. As the seasons passed and her caravans continued their rhythmic journeys across the desert, Khadijah remained focused on her work, her children, and her principles. She had no way of knowing that her life was about to change, that she would soon hire a young man to lead one of her caravans, a man whose honesty and capability would catch her attention, a man named Muhammad. But that is a story for another segment, another gentle unfolding of this remarkable life. For now, let us rest with the image of Khadijah in her prime, independent, successful, respected, and content, a woman who had carved her own path in a challenging world and done so with grace, integrity, and unwavering principle. Meeting and marriage. The marketplace of Mecca hummed with its usual energy, voices calling out prices, the soft shuffle of sandaled feet on dusty ground, the occasional bray of a camel, and beneath it all, the whisper of commerce that never truly ceased. Khadijah stood in her home, reviewing the accounts from her latest caravan, when her trusted servant Maysara brought news that would change everything. She needed someone new to lead her next caravan to Syria. Her regular agent had fallen ill, and the season for trade was upon them. The journey north was one of her most profitable routes, but it required someone with exceptional qualities, honesty above all, but also capability, wisdom, and the kind of presence that commanded respect from both the caravan workers and the merchants in distant cities. Word had reached her of a young man in Mecca, someone known for his integrity and trustworthiness. His name was Muhammad ibn Abdullah, and though he came from a respected branch of the Quraysh tribe, he had been orphaned young and raised by his uncle. He had worked as a shepherd, and later had led caravans for others, always returning with his employer's goods intact and his reputation unblemished. In a society where people were known by their character, he had earned the title Al-Amin, the trustworthy one. Khadijah made inquiries, as was her careful way. She asked about his dealings in the marketplace. She spoke with those who had employed him before. Every answer confirmed what she had heard. This Muhammad was a man of exceptional honesty, someone who could be trusted completely. And so, she made him an offer to lead her caravan to Syria, with her faithful servant Maysara to accompany him and assist in the trading. The caravan departed as countless others had before, a line of camels laden with goods, moving northward through the vast desert. But this journey would prove different in ways that neither Khadija nor Muhammad could have anticipated. Weeks passed, and Khadija attended to her other business matters, as she always did. But when the caravan returned from Syria, Maysara came to her with extraordinary news. The profits were double what she typically earned from such a journey. Muhammad had proven himself a masterful negotiator and a shrewd judge of markets. He had sold their goods for excellent prices and purchased return cargo that would fetch premium rates in Mecca. But Maysara had more to tell, and as he spoke, Khadija listened with growing interest. He described Muhammad's character in detail, how he treated the workers with kindness and fairness, how he resolved disputes with wisdom, how he prayed and reflected in the quiet hours. Maysara spoke of strange occurrences during the journey, moments that seemed touched by something beyond the ordinary, though he could barely find words to describe them. What struck Khadija most deeply was the consistency between what she had heard of Muhammad and what Maysara now confirmed. Here was a man whose reputation was not exaggerated but, if anything, understated. Here was someone whose honesty was matched by capability, whose humility was combined with natural leadership, whose character was as pure as his business dealings were profitable. Khadija found herself thinking about this young man more than she had thought about anyone in years. She was a woman of about 40 years now, successful and independent, someone who had rejected numerous proposals from wealthy and powerful men. Muhammad was younger than her, perhaps 15 years younger, and while he came from a noble family, he had no great wealth of his own. By the usual calculations of society, such a match would seem unusual. But Khadija had never been bound by usual calculations. She had built her success by trusting her own judgment, by seeing value where others might overlook it, by understanding that true worth lay in character rather than circumstance. And in Muhammad, she recognized something rare and precious, a partner who would truly be her equal, someone whose values aligned with her own, someone whose integrity matched hers. The decision, once made, filled her with a certainty she had not felt in years. But proposing marriage directly would not be appropriate, not for a woman of her status. And so, she confided in a trusted relative, a woman named Nufaysa, who understood matters of the heart and could navigate such delicate situations with grace. Nufaysa went to Muhammad and spoke with him, gently exploring his thoughts on marriage. Would he consider it? What prevented him from taking a wife? Muhammad, with his characteristic honesty, admitted that he lacked the means for marriage. He had no wealth of his own, and marriage required resources to establish a household. And then Nufaysa asked the question that mattered most: what if a woman of beauty, wealth, nobility, and character were interested in him? Would he be receptive to such a proposal? When Muhammad expressed his openness, Nufaysa revealed that she spoke of Khadija herself. The proposal was made, and Muhammad, recognizing the extraordinary nature of this opportunity and the remarkable character of the woman making it, accepted. His uncle Abu Talib and other family members were consulted. Khadija's family gave their blessing. And so, around the year 595 of the Common Era, Khadijah bint Khuwaylid and Muhammad ibn Abdullah were married. Their wedding was celebrated in Mecca, a joining of two souls who had each earned the respect of their community through integrity and character. Khadijah was taking a risk, perhaps, marrying someone younger and less wealthy. But she was also gaining something beyond price, a true partnership built on mutual respect, shared values, and genuine affection. Their home became a place of peace and harmony. Khadijah continued to manage her business affairs, but now with Muhammad as her partner and advisor. He brought his own insights and capabilities to her commercial ventures, and together they prospered even more than before. But their wealth was always managed with the same integrity that had defined both their characters, fairly earned, generously shared, and never allowed to corrupt their values. In time, their household was blessed with children. First came a son, Qasim, whose name meant the divider or distributor, a name full of hope and promise. Khadijah held him close, this precious child who represented the future, the continuation of their line. Muhammad was overjoyed, and in that society, he became known as Abu Qasim, the father of Qasim. But joy in that harsh world was often intertwined with sorrow. Little Qasim, despite all the love and care lavished upon him, fell ill and passed away while still very young. The grief was profound, a wound that cut deep into their hearts. They mourned together, Khadijah and Muhammad, finding comfort in each other and in their faith that there was meaning beyond their understanding. Then came their daughters, one after another, each a blessing and a joy. Zainab arrived first, strong and healthy, bringing renewed hope to their home. Then Ruqayya, with her gentle nature. Then Kulthum, adding to the blessed noise and energy of a household full of children. And finally Fatima, the youngest, who would grow to hold a special place in her father's heart. These girls filled their home with laughter and life. Khadijah, who had known both success and sorrow, devoted herself to their upbringing with the same attention and care she had given to her business. She taught them integrity and independence, kindness and strength. Muhammad was a devoted father, playing with them, teaching them, showing them through his own example what it meant to be honest and compassionate. Another son was born, Abdullah, bringing again that special joy that comes with a male child in that society. But like his brother Qasim before him, little Abdullah's time in this world was brief. He too passed away in infancy, and again Khadijah and Muhammad mourned, their grief shared and their comfort found in each other's presence. Through joy and sorrow, prosperity and loss, Khadijah and Muhammad's marriage remained strong. Theirs was a partnership built on more than convention or convenience. It was founded on mutual respect, genuine affection, and shared commitment to living with integrity. In a time when men often took multiple wives, Muhammad remained devoted solely to Khadijah throughout their marriage, a testament to the depth of their bond. Their home became known as a place of hospitality and wisdom. The poor knew they could find assistance there. Orphans and the vulnerable found protection. Travelers found welcome. And in the quiet hours, Muhammad would sometimes retreat to pray and meditate, seeking answers to questions that stirred within him, questions about meaning and purpose, about the divine and the human condition. Khadija watched her husband with understanding eyes. She saw in him a depth of character and spiritual sensitivity that was rare. She did not yet know what destiny awaited them both, what profound changes would come to their lives and to the world. But she knew that whatever came, they would face it together, partners in business and in life, bound by love and shared principles. And so their days unfolded, one following another, in the rhythm of family life and commercial ventures, of children growing and household routines, of profits earned and charity given, of quiet evenings and busy mornings, a life that was, by any measure, blessed and full. First believer and supporter. The year was 610 of the Common Era, and Muhammad had developed a practice of retreating to a cave on Mount Hira, just outside Mecca, to pray and contemplate in solitude. Khadija understood this need in her husband, this seeking for something beyond the material world, this questioning of the idol worship that dominated Meccan society. She supported his retreats, managing their household and business affairs while he spent days in meditation and prayer. It was during the month of Ramadan, in the stillness of that cave, that everything changed. Muhammad returned home one evening in a state Khadija had never witnessed before. He was trembling, wrapped in his cloak, his face pale with an experience that had shaken him to his core. Cover me," he said, his voice urgent with fear and confusion. Khadija immediately wrapped him in blankets, holding him close, her own heart racing as she tried to understand what had happened. And then, gradually, Muhammad told her. He described how an angel had appeared to him in the cave, how this being had commanded him to read, though Muhammad protested that he could not. How the angel had embraced him tightly, 3 times, each time repeating the command, until finally words had flowed through Muhammad, words that were not his own but came from beyond him, words that spoke of creation, of knowledge, of a Lord most generous. Muhammad was terrified. Was he losing his mind? Had a jinn possessed him? In that culture, such experiences could mark someone as mad or possessed. His reputation, everything he had built through years of trustworthy conduct, could be destroyed. And more than that, he genuinely feared for his own sanity, his own soul. But Khadija did not hesitate. She looked at her husband, the man she had known for 15 years, the man whose character she understood better than anyone else in the world. And she spoke words that would echo through history, words of absolute faith and certainty. "Rejoice, O dear husband, and be of good cheer," she said, her voice calm and reassuring despite her own racing heart. "By Allah, He will never disgrace you. You maintain family ties, you bear the burden of the weak, you help the poor and destitute, you serve your guests generously, and you assist those who are afflicted with calamities." She understood, you see, that divine grace does not come to those who are corrupt or cruel. She had watched Muhammad for years, his honesty, his compassion, his justice, his kindness to all creatures. She knew that if something extraordinary was happening to him, it came from a source of good, not evil. But Khadija was also practical and wise. She wanted confirmation, understanding, context for this overwhelming experience. and so she took Muhammad to see her elderly cousin, Waraka ibn Nawfal, a man learned in the ancient scriptures, someone who had studied the teachings of earlier prophets and understood the traditions of revelation. They found Waraka, now quite old and blind, and Muhammad described his experience. The old scholar listened carefully, and when Muhammad finished, Waraka spoke with certainty born of knowledge. "This is the Namus," he said, referring to the angel Gabriel, the same who came to Moses. "I wish I were young and could live to see the day when your people drive you out." Muhammad was startled. Drive him out? Why would his people, who called him Al-Amin, the trustworthy, ever turn against him? Waraka's response was knowing and sad. "Anyone who has come with something similar to what you have brought has been treated with hostility. If I should remain alive until that day, I will support you strongly." And so Khadijah understood. Her husband was not mad. He was not possessed. He was a prophet, chosen to receive divine revelation, called to guide his people back to the worship of the one God. This understanding transformed everything, yet in Khadijah's heart, nothing changed. She had already committed herself completely to Muhammad. Now she simply committed herself to his message as well. Without hesitation, without doubt, without asking for proof or time to consider, Khadijah became the first person to accept Islam. She testified that there was no God but Allah, and that Muhammad was his messenger. In that moment, in the privacy of their home, the community of believers began with just two people, a prophet and his wife, facing an uncertain future together. At first, the revelation came slowly, gently. Muhammad shared the message quietly with those closest to him. A small community of believers began to form. Ali, Muhammad's young cousin; Zayd, their adopted son; Abu Bakr, a close friend and respected merchant. They prayed together in secret, learning this new way of submitting to the one God. But Khadijah's role went far beyond simply believing. She became Muhammad's greatest source of comfort and strength during the difficult early years of his prophethood. When doubts troubled him, she reassured him. When the weight of responsibility felt crushing, she reminded him of Allah's wisdom in choosing him. When loneliness threatened to overwhelm him, she stood by his side with unwavering presence. After 3 years, Muhammad was commanded to proclaim his message publicly. And just as Waraka had predicted, hostility came. The Quraysh tribe, who had respected Muhammad, now turned against him. His message threatened their power, their economic interests tied to the idols housed at the Kaaba, their entire way of life. They mocked him, insulted him, threw garbage at him when he prayed. But the worst persecution was reserved for the most vulnerable believers, the slaves, the poor, those without powerful family protection. And here, Khadijah's wealth became not just an asset but a tool for mercy and justice. She spent freely, purchasing the freedom of enslaved Muslims who were being tortured for their faith. Bilal, an enslaved man subjected to horrific abuse by his master, was ransomed and freed. Others followed, their freedom purchased with Khadijah's gold, their lives saved by her generosity. She fed the hungry believers who had been cut off from their families. She provided shelter for those who had been driven from their homes. She funded the early Muslim community, allowing it to survive and grow despite relentless pressure. Her own daughters faced difficulties. Zainab and Ruqayya had married into prominent Meccan families, but as Islam spread and tensions grew, their husbands were pressured to divorce them. The social fabric of Mecca was tearing, with the new faith creating divisions through families and clans. Then came the boycott. In the year 616 CE, the Quraysh leaders made a collective decision. They would isolate Muhammad's clan, the Banu Hashim, completely. No one would trade with them. No one would marry them. No one would have any social or economic dealings with them whatsoever. The decree was written down and hung in the Kaaba itself, making it official and binding. Muhammad, Khadijah, their family, and the growing community of believers were forced to retreat to a valley outside Mecca called Shirbi Abi Talib. What followed were 3 years of severe hardship, years that tested faith and endurance to their limits. Imagine, if you will, the woman who had once commanded caravans across the desert, whose business had made her one of the wealthiest people in Mecca, now living in a narrow valley with limited food and resources. Khadijah, who was now in her 60s, faced deprivation she had never known. The sounds of children crying from hunger echoed through the valley. Sometimes, it was said, they could hear even the sounds of children's bellies rumbling from outside the valley, so severe was the hunger. Yet Khadijah bore it all with patience and dignity. She used whatever resources she had managed to preserve, carefully distributing food and supplies to ensure the most vulnerable were cared for. She comforted mothers whose children were suffering. She encouraged those whose faith wavered under the weight of hardship. She supported Muhammad emotionally and spiritually as he continued to receive revelation and guide his community through this dark time. The boycott was not absolute. Some Meccans, moved by conscience, would occasionally sneak food to them at night. A few brave souls defied the decree openly, though at risk to themselves. But for 3 long years, the believers endured conditions that would have broken lesser communities. Khadijah's health, already challenged by her age, began to decline under these harsh conditions. The woman who had once walked through her prosperous household, who had negotiated contracts with competent authority, who had managed complex business operations, now struggled with the simple challenges of getting enough to eat, of staying warm in the cold desert nights, of maintaining strength when the body naturally weakens with age. Yet her spirit remained unbroken. She never complained, never expressed regret for her choice to support Muhammad and his message. The wealth she had spent was gone, but she considered it the best investment she had ever made, not in goods or caravans, but in truth, in justice, in the establishment of a faith that recognized the dignity of every human being, that called for compassion and equity, that challenged the corruption and cruelty of the existing order. Finally, in the year 619 CE, the boycott ended. Some Meccans had grown uncomfortable with the cruelty of starving an entire clan. The document hanging in the Kaaba had been eaten by insects, leaving only the name of Allah intact, a sign that moved even some of the believers' opponents. The ban was lifted, and the believers emerged from the valley, thinner and weaker but still faithful, still united. Khadijah returned to her home in Mecca, but the years of hardship had taken their toll. She had given everything, her wealth, her comfort, her health, in support of the message her husband brought and the community that formed around it. She had been the first believer, the strongest supporter, the most generous contributor to the cause of Islam in its most vulnerable early years. And now, exhausted but fulfilled, she rested, knowing that the foundation had been laid, that the message would continue, that her sacrifice had not been in vain. Death and legacy. The year 619 of the Common Era would become known in Islamic history as the Year of Sorrow, and it began with a loss that shook Muhammad to his very core. Khadija had returned to her home in Mecca after the lifting of the boycott, but the 3 years of deprivation had weakened her considerably. She was now about 65 years old, an age that in that time and place was considered quite advanced. The hunger, the cold, the stress, the lack of proper shelter and nutrition, all of these had worn down her body, though her spirit remained as strong as ever. As the blessed month of Ramadan arrived that year, Khadija felt her strength fading. She had fasted during countless Ramadans before, finding spiritual renewal in the discipline and devotion of this sacred time. But now, as the days passed, she grew weaker. Muhammad stayed close by her side, his heart heavy with the knowledge that their time together in this world was drawing to a close. Imagine the scene in those final days, the home that had once buzzed with the energy of children and business and visitors, now quiet and hushed. Muhammad sitting beside Khadija's bed, holding her hand as he had held it through 25 years of marriage. Their daughters gathering around, Zainab, Ruqayya, Kulthum, and Fatima, each remembering the mother who had taught them strength and compassion, independence and faith. Khadija had no regrets. She had lived a remarkable life, a life of success and service, of wealth earned and wealth spent for the good of others, of faith declared at a moment when doing so took extraordinary courage. She had been the first to believe when belief itself was a radical act. She had been the strongest supporter when support meant sacrificing everything. She had been a partner, a companion, a source of comfort and strength through years of joy and years of hardship. In those final conversations, as her breathing grew more labored and her body grew weaker, what did they speak of? Perhaps they remembered the early days of their marriage, when Muhammad had first led her caravan to Syria and returned with unexpected profits. Perhaps they recalled the night of the first revelation, when he had come home trembling and she had wrapped him in her arms and told him that Allah would never disgrace him. Perhaps they spoke of their children, the sons they had lost too young, the daughters who had grown into strong, faithful women. Perhaps they simply sat in companionable silence, having reached that deep understanding where words become unnecessary between two souls who have shared so much. And then, as the blessed month of Ramadan continued, as the moon waxed in the sky above Mecca, Khadija bint Khuwaylid breathed her last. She returned to her Creator, the one God she had been among the first to worship in the way He had revealed through her husband. She died in a state of faith, surrounded by those she loved, her life complete and her purpose fulfilled. Muhammad washed her body himself, performing this final act of love and respect. In that culture, preparing the dead for burial was considered a sacred duty, and for Khadija, he would allow no one else to perform this service. He wrapped her in simple burial cloths, as was the custom, and then he carried her to her final resting place. She was buried in Jannat al-Mu'alla, the cemetery of Mecca where generations of the city's inhabitants had been laid to rest. The grave was simple, without monument or marker, for Islam teaches humility even in death. But though the grave was simple, the loss was profound. Muhammad stood at her burial site, tears flowing freely down his face, and those who witnessed it said they had never seen him weep so openly. The year of sorrow earned its name doubly, for just months after Khadijah's death, Muhammad's uncle Abu Talib also passed away. Abu Talib had been his protector, the clan leader whose authority had shielded Muhammad from the worst of Quraysh hostility. Now, within the span of a few months, Muhammad had lost both his greatest personal support and his greatest political protection. The grief was overwhelming. For 25 years, Khadija had been his constant companion. She had been the one person he could turn to with any trouble, any joy, any question. She had believed in him when belief required courage. She had supported him when support required sacrifice. She had loved him with a love that asked nothing and gave everything. In the years that followed, even after Muhammad married other wives, marriages that were often political alliances or acts of charity toward widows, he never forgot Khadijah. He spoke of her often, remembering her virtues and her sacrifices. When visitors came who had known Khadijah, his face would light up and he would ask them to share their memories of her. He would send gifts to Khadijah's old friends, honoring the relationships she had cherished. Once, it is said, he received a gift of meat and immediately sent a portion to an elderly woman. When his wife Aisha, who had never known Khadijah, asked why, he explained that this woman had been Khadijah's friend, and honoring Khadijah's friendships was a way of honoring her memory. His devotion to Khadijah's memory was so evident that Aisha once remarked that she had never been jealous of any of Muhammad's wives except Khadijah, though she had never even met her. Such was the power of Muhammad's love and remembrance. Muhammad spoke of Khadijah's status in the sight of Allah. He said that the angel Gabriel had come to him once while Khadijah was still alive, bringing greetings to her from her Lord and giving glad tidings of a house in paradise, a house of hollow pearls, where there would be no noise or fatigue, only peace and tranquility. He praised her as one of the 4 perfect women of all time, alongside Mary the mother of Jesus, Asiya the wife of Pharaoh who believed in Moses, and Fatima, his own daughter born to Khadijah. And what was Khadijah's legacy? It rippled outward through time like waves from a stone dropped in still water. She left daughters who carried forward her strength and faith. Fatima especially would become beloved in Islamic tradition, embodying the qualities her mother had taught her. She left the example of a woman who managed wealth with integrity and spent it with generosity. She left the model of a marriage built on mutual respect, genuine partnership, and shared commitment to something greater than themselves. She left the memory of being the first believer, the one who said yes when saying yes required everything. She demonstrated that faith sometimes calls us to sacrifice comfort for truth, security for justice, wealth for principle. She showed that true strength is found not in dominating others but in supporting them, not in accumulating but in giving, not in seeking honor but in living honorably. For the Muslim community, Khadijah became known as the mother of believers, a title of deep respect and affection. Every Muslim who came after her, in some sense, benefited from her faith and sacrifice. When she spent her wealth to ransom tortured slaves, she preserved lives that would help build the community. When she supported Muhammad through his doubts and fears, she helped ensure that the message would continue. When she endured the boycott without complaint, she demonstrated the patience and perseverance that would be needed by believers facing persecution throughout history. Her grave in Jannat al-Mu'alla remained simple through the centuries. Pilgrims would visit when they came to Mecca, standing quietly at the site where this remarkable woman was laid to rest, remembering her sacrifices and seeking to emulate her faith. Though the grave marker itself might be humble, the legacy was immeasurable. And so we come to the end of Khadijah's story, yet in another sense, her story has no end. It continues in every act of faith that requires courage, in every sacrifice made for truth, in every partnership built on mutual respect, in every wealthy person who chooses generosity over greed, in every woman who refuses to let society's limitations define her possibilities. She was born into privilege and used it to serve others. She achieved success and shared it freely. She found love and honored it deeply. She discovered truth and embraced it completely. She faced hardship and bore it patiently. She lived with integrity and died with faith. Khadija bint Khuwaylid, the pure one, the successful merchant, the first believer, the mother of believers, the beloved wife, the generous supporter, the patient endurer, the woman whose life spanned from the time before Islam to its challenging early years, whose choices helped shape the course of history, whose memory remains honored and beloved. May her story inspire us to live with integrity, to give with generosity, to believe with courage, and to love with constancy. May we find in her example the strength to sacrifice comfort for principle, to support truth even when it costs us, to remain patient through hardship, and to never lose faith in what is good and right and true. And as we rest now, let us carry with us the image of Khadijah, strong and gentle, wealthy and generous, independent and devoted, courageous and humble, a woman who lived fully, loved deeply, and left a legacy that continues to illuminate the path for those who seek to live lives of meaning and purpose. Rest now, knowing that her story, like all true stories of faith and courage, never really ends. It simply continues in different forms, in different hearts, in different times, echoing forward through the generations like a gentle, persistent call to be better, to give more, to believe more deeply, to love more fully. Peace be upon Khadijah, peace be upon all those who strive to follow in her footsteps, and peace be upon you, as you rest and reflect on this remarkable life.